Good morning to all the participants. Welcome to the second day session of ATAL FDP on artificial intelligence in healthcare. So today we are having with us Professor Samanda Dandapat sir. He is from IIT Gauhati. Sir is working as a professor in Department of EEE, IIT Gauhati since 1997. He received his PhD degree from IIT Kanpur, MTech degree from IIT BHU, and BTech degree from MNIT Allahabad. Uh, he was head of the department EEE from 2005 to 2006, Dean Student Affairs from 2006 to 2008, Dean Administration from 2009 to 2012 at IIT Guwahati. He was also the founder Dean of IIT Patna from 2008 to 2009. He was a visiting research fellow in NTU Singapore from 2003 to 2004. He has served as mentor of BOG of IIT Guwahati, NIT Silchar, NERIS Itanagar, and Regional Film and Television Institute Guwahati. His research interests includes cardiovascular signal processing, speech processing, and fundus image processing. Currently, he is also with the Sports and Healthcare Engineering Research Center at IIT Guwahati. He has published around 80 journal papers and 120 conference papers. Sir has supervised more than 15 PhD theses and 50 MTech thesis works. So I welcome you, sir, to the fourth session of Artificial Intelligence in Healthcare (FDP). And without making any further delay, I give you the platform. Thank you, sir, and welcome, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jyoti, for the brief introduction. And good morning to all of you. So, I hope all of you are able to hear me, right, Jyoti? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, then we'll start. I'll just switch off my camera and we'll start. I'll share my slides. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, again, good morning to everybody.
Sir, one more thing, just hide that bar. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So, normally, wherever this healthcare related or biomedical related this type of programs are going on, I am getting a lot of. So, last few months, I have given talk on the same topic at several institutes. So, some of you might have heard me earlier on the same topic. So, the things will be repeating. But as it's a long 2 hours, I have to speak. That's what, according to the organizers. I like that. Let us start with some discussion. So the topic that I've chosen is artificial intelligence for cardiac signals. So one aspect is artificial intelligence. That is how it has come up and how people are using it or have used it for healthcare, and especially for a signal and specific to the cardiac signals. So what you are interested to know from me, because we are working for almost last 30 years. Personally, I can say I'm working for last 30 years in this area, signal processing, cardiac signals, and machine learning. Recently, you can say, or artificial intelligence is a general topic. So I would like to hear from you what exactly you are interested in to hear from me. Yes, some people can respond. What is your interest? Do you want to know more about the cardiac signals? Of course, I have not spoken anything. So anything you ask or you start discussion, then I'll respond to it. Then slowly I'll go into the presentation.
Sir, good morning. Myself, Dr. Abhishek Dajij.
Okay.
I, sir, just want to know that what certain parameters that we have to be monitor as artificial intelligence, so that we can identify the many more of the disease, that what type of disease or what are the pattern of disease can be takes place.
Okay. So when you say parameters, it's nothing related to artificial intelligence. It is comes from the domain area. Like here, the domain is the cardiac signal. Now again, there are different types of cardiac signals. So like electrocardiogram signal, phonocardiogram signal, seismocardiogram signal, and also medical cardiac images. So based on what signal, that is the domain I am saying, you are choosing as input to your artificial intelligence system. So that domain knowledge helps us to decide about the parameters. So the parameters is not dependent on the artificial intelligence system, or you can say machine learning system, or simply I am saying a classifier. It depends on the domain knowledge. Domain means in the cardiac signal, how the information are there and how we are actually capturing those information. That in detail I will discuss slowly. Yes.
Yes. Okay, sir.
So there are two things. One is the domain knowledge, that is whichever signal or image that you are working, the information are not exactly same. They're different information. Like cardiac signal, what is um, a signal characteristic or a signal parameter is important as a diagnostic information. Similar type of characteristic may not be of any diagnostic information in another signal, or in a particular image, that already you can guess a particular information or a particular object in an image that may be of diagnostic information, and similar characteristic information in another image may not be of diagnostic. That's what I want to say. That's why the domain knowledge is important. Yes, any other, it's a good thing actually. There I will emphasize. I will remember it and I will emphasize there. Any other thing that you like to know? It's good to start with from the beginning. I know where is your interest.
Yes, sir. It is written in the chat box actually. What kind of data can be collected? How to analyze it? What are the interpretations? Like that's what I have written.
Yes, it's a very important point from the point of view Indian scenario. In India, we are not habituated to collect data. We always work with foreign data, you can say. Now that is traditionally it has happened like that, but that has to go unless we work on our data or we collect our data. New experiments, it's not possible. Somebody has collected the data with a particular intention, and that's why the data itself is information whatever the data collector's interest was, and based on the data collection we can design our things. So but the problem here is that when you are collecting data, like in India typically in this field, the medical colleges and engineering colleges are all separate institutes, unlike most of the Western universities, where both medical and engineering they coexist. So data collection is definitely a very challenging task, but yes, time has come. We'll have to focus on that. And till now we are using data especially for research purpose, because we don't have patient data. Even if I can collect ECG data, we've got very good facility in all IITs, or at least I know some of the other colleges also. But collecting the patient data, you require a hospital environment. That is not there.
So that's what I was just thinking, because these ICUs and ICCUs are there, and then they are treating so many patients every day. Is there any way we can collect some data from them?
Yes, if you have contacts, you'll have to make relationship with those hospitals, and you'll have to bring them in your team. Then it is possible. But there is a bottleneck here. Those ICU that we are referring to are simple hospitals, and we are working in an academic environment. Typically,
I have some acquaintance with one ICCU. So what kind of data I can collect from them, if you can throw some light on that? Like I am attached to some one hospital.
okay, what type of data you have collected? Based on that, it will depend. Like you can segregate them into different pathological conditions. First is the data that you have collected, the digital data, like ASCII files you have got.
No, I didn't get you, sir.
No, what type of data you have collected? The data is in a ASCII form, like.
No, I have not collected it. I know, I know the hospital actually, and
Then directly you see there is an engineering aspect. Directly you can look at the data. Whatever data you are getting, just take it and look at the data. And then the second thing is that you have to get it annotated by the doctors or the medical people. They can only say that the data contains like it's a particular like myocardial infarction or lateral infarction, or you can say hypertrophy of ventricles. What type of pathological symptoms are there in those data? Once you have that information, and for that typically you have to get a project, spend money to get that work done by the medical people. That we can't do it. That only medical people can tell which data contains what type of information. Like the data corresponds to a myocardial infarction disease or a, as I told you, lateral myocardial infarction or ventricular hypertrophy. There are so many pathological conditions. They can only say. And once you have that information, and for that information, as I'm telling you, you should have project or funded project where you should have money which you can pay to the doctors or the medical people to annotate it. It's like they are doing the diagnosis on the data. Once it is annotated, then you can segregate them depending on what target you are making it. Suppose you are developing a system for detection of myocardial infarction, then you can use them.
right.
And the government gives projects in this line also. Only thing is that the target, because other part that you'll have to do that what I'm suggesting. Could I answer your query?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Any other thing? That
Morning, sir.
good morning.
So this is in continuation to question raised by our earlier participant, because if you see
Yes.
CVD has different biomarkers. So we alarms
Yes.
the patient or the medical fraternity saying that he or she may get an CVD in the earlier stage. But my thing is, by using this AI and for these cardiac signals, can we able to detect much here, as well as is it possible that something has been missed by these biological markers can be captured using this AI signals?
No, what is missed actually? I also missed your point. Again, repeat.
No. So, for example, sir, of all these cardiac events, we have a biomarkers. So we generally patient do the test, blood test, and with the biological markers, the doctors would advise them saying that he or she may have an event in the or that they will treat after that, so that the event won't happen. So this is what
Yes.
generally happens. Now my question is, there are some events in which we can't able to alarm the patient upfrontly, saying that he or she may have cardiac maybe a couple of months or a couple of years, in the next 2 years or so. So by using this cardiac signals using artificial intelligence, can we able to detect very accurately, saying that the patient may have an cardiac arrest or cardiac other events, CVD events in the future?
Okay. Okay, this is the challenge actually in research. Current scenario is that, as you told very correctly, that from the blood test, we can come to know about the cardiac situation, right, as a biomarker. Also from ECG signal also will come to know. So that's what I will discuss in this year, that various types of, you can say when doctors do diagnosis, they not only use the ECG signal, but also use other types of biomarkers, like biochemical tests and other physiological parameters they evaluate, including patient history. Okay, that is one thing. That is what actually gives the doctor the right perception about the disease condition. When we are working, because typically suppose I am working on signal, then from the signal we try to extract, and basically we are working on the technical domain. We try to develop new methods, and nowadays popular different types of machine learning tools and all we develop. The challenge in a cardiac, like a heart attack, the time for the symptom to appear and the event happening with final heart attack, if as far as I remember, it's only 3 minutes time. It's a very short time, and so within that 3 minutes time, the person or the patient should be in a medical environment. So it has to be detected, then it has to be up to 3 minutes is a very long time in a medical environment point of view. But you don't know when the heart attack happens that before 3 minutes he has to be in hospital. That's not the necessary condition. So what is targeted is that, as exactly as you are asking, can you predict much before? And that is what is the challenge, and that is where the current research is going on. And till now, if I remember, it is before 9 minutes or so we can detect. Or what happens exactly, the signals and all these things, they give intermittent, you can say, signatures or the characteristics appear. Like human body is such that, like even if I have a normal heart, but sometime it may function abnormally for a very short duration, but which throughout life we experience. But that is not a purely pathological condition. It recovers. Only thing, and another extreme case is that if the pathological condition persists, then obviously it is going to lead to a hazardous condition. So both extreme things don't happen. One extreme thing is that both extreme things we cannot handle. One extreme thing that sometimes we have some diagnostic signature or the characteristic appear, suppose in an ECG signal, and that will automatically our physiological system adjust and it recovers. So it's not, it's difficult to detect it. Similarly, another extreme case, if it persists, then obviously it is going to be hazardous. In between, suppose there is a heart patient and how he is diagnosed. So for him, actually, it repeats in the sense maybe 24 hours, 2-3 symptoms may come every 24 hours. So that means he is a pathological case and he recovers. That's how his life. 2-3 symptoms only, and because ECG signal is typically 72 beats per minute is our heart rate. Approximately, if I take it 60 beats per minute, that means in every second one cycle goes, and you can imagine how many cycles in 24 hours. And out of those, 1 or 2 pathological signatures may appear or will appear in a pathological condition or in a disease condition. So that is what is challenging for us. So that is where we engineers play a role, because 24 hours whole ECG for a cardiologist to scan, it's a very difficult task. You can guess that how many cycles will come, that he has to go through all these things. And that is where actually automated methods or artificial intelligence or this type of tools comes into picture. But exactly predicting what you are saying, that only is 3 minutes, and that people are trying to develop systems if that can be done. And the challenge is in that direction. One challenge is that how to detect it within 3 minutes. Second thing is that, do you have any signature? Whatever the conventional characteristics or signature, as I told you, maybe in 24 hours time for a pathological condition or for a disease condition, that can appear maybe twice or thrice. But is there any hidden other signature which we don't know till now? Maybe that's why the research direction. Could I answer your query?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, now let us start, and you can, like that, you can stop me and we can discuss, because what is important for you, if that I respond, that will be better instead of speaking only from my side. So you just simply stop me and ask me. There is no question. I say always to my students, there is no question is irrelevant. Anything you discuss, because this, after all, somebody, if you are going to work, you have to work in this year. For that, actually, the doubts or what clarification you require, then that is only your problem, and that you have to ask, or you have to, because for me, what is a point may not be a point for another person in this area. So whatever I have some experience, so always you can stop me and ask me. Don't hesitate. Anyhow, let us start formally. So, this is a beautiful photograph of our campus in front of my flat only. So I say it's a Kailas Manasarovar scenario, IIT Gauhati. So lake, and behind that a beautiful hill is there. Then this is our academic complex, and behind that the mighty Brahmaputra. You can see it just besides Brahmaputra river. And these are the various research activities in our lab, EMST lab, we call Electromedical and Speech Technology lab. We are working on, myself and few other faculty members, we are working on ECG signal, PCG signal, seismocardiogram signal. Then we are also working on speech signal, specifically stress speech signal or pathological speech signal. And currently, my own interest goes towards this out of breath speech. Then also we work on retinal image analysis. We work on two images here, fundus image and OCT, optical computed tomography image. Some photographs of my lab. Here students on the left side, they are recording a fundus image. On the right side, they are recording an OCT image. This is left side again, the fundus image. And on the right side, we have a completely wireless equipments for all physiological signals. So these are wireless sensors on the body, and we record this because nowadays wireless has become important. So we've started. We have also equipment directly wired physiological systems we can record, and now we are interested in wireless systems. So that's what here the students are recording wireless. And again, this is the equipment. Left side again, the students are doing recording. And here one video, I'll show you how they are recording. These are wireless sensor, this black. And this is always, I'm just before starting, I tell our ideas on this diagnostic and therapeutic process, how we look at the body. So the body, we have the gross body. We can imagine gross body means the food seed, whatever the body we see from outside. Inside it, we can visualize as if there is a biochemical body. All processes are biochemical processes, whether it's gas exchange in the lungs, or we can say fluid filtration in the kidney, or digestion in the stomach. All are biochemical processes. So we can imagine inside the gross body there is a biochemical body, and inside that all these biochemical processes, everything is controlled by an electrical body. Electrical signals, we have their sources where the signals are generated. Main source is in the central nervous system that consists of brain and the spinal cord. And we have autonomous organs like heart, where it has its own generator. And this electrical body, you can say, is more subtle compared to the biochemical body or compared to the gross body, and the electrical body controls all these activities. And inside that, we say there is a cognitive body who starts that electrical activity, so that we say cognitive body. And inside that, just I put it as a bliss, taking idea from our spiritual books, that as if inside that there is a bliss body is there. We don't know much about it, at least to a scientist we don't know. And this you can visualize. This is the gross body I was telling, consists of, basically it is made up of the food that we are taking. And very long time ago, typically the diagnosis based on this body was consisting of, even nowadays also the doctors ask you, are you a chain smoker? If you have a heart problem, what about your alcohol consumption? What are your food habits? Based on that, the doctor can do a diagnosis for your pathological condition. And the therapeutic activities on this body are like, you go for a balanced diet, the dietitian suggests, or a healthy diet, consult a dietitian. So this is like that. So this is how we, from the medical point of view, look at the gross body for the diagnosis and the therapy. Then we have the biochemical body, as I was telling you inside that. So all biochemical processes are going on, and typical the diagnostics based on the biochemical body are like regular blood test, urine test, all are biochemical tests, you know. So that's how from these test results doctors diagnose any pathological condition, and the therapy, you know, present day medicine. And this whole diagnostic and therapy on the biochemical body had started almost before 200 or 300 years back, where actually from the therapy point of view, the medicines you are taking are actually chemical. That's why we say medicine shop or sometimes chemist shop. You take some medicine and the medicines are designed in such a way they actually affect directly the biochemical process. So that's how we get rid of those pathological conditions. So whole modern medicine, whatever till now, is mostly dominated with this diagnostic part by this biochemical based diagnosis, and the therapy part again is biochemical based therapy or chemical based medicine. Then last 50 years importance has started on people started looking at this electrical body, which actually controls the biochemical process. So the various slowly last 50 years slowly this, instead of biochemical based diagnosis, electro diagnosis are getting replaced. That's why hospital, like from my childhood, if I look at now, look more cleaner because they are less and less handling the biochemical diagnostic or diagnostic systems. So now the diagnostics are slowly getting replaced with electrodiagnostic systems, including images also. I'll say electrodiagnostic, and you know the effect is much better from the point of view of diagnosis. So every time you go these hospital, they will ask you to go for imaging technique and all, because there it is easier to look at what is happening to your systems. And of course, this electro diagnosis, also the electrical signals present in the body, we use them, or some of the signals like heart sound or speech signal, which are actually pressure signals, we convert them to electrical signals and we do the diagnosis. And therapy also in this area has started dominating, like pacemakers, of course, already is a therapeutic equipment. Like when you have heart original generator, you can say, that has any problem, then people put a oscillator circuit. That actually the pacemaker contains an oscillator circuit in the same place where the heart's generator is there. That is called sinoatrial node. They place it. This technology is there for last 50 years, and a lot of improvements have happened. And we know pacemaker is a relatively more permanent therapy compared to taking medicine. So that's how. And recently, this deep brain stimulators, like doctors have started in putting chips in the brain, especially for diseases like Parkinsonian disease and all. Already in India, such treatments have started. So you can say big, and the effect is this type of therapeutic, you can say, approaches have a relatively more permanent effect compared to biochemical based therapeutic approaches like taking chemicals and all. So slowly, education with the advancement of science and technology, things are the chemical based, or you can say biochemical based diagnostics and therapy are getting replaced with the electrodiagnostic systems and electrotherapeutic systems. And in between, of course, things like you might have seen nowadays, this blood sugar test home, which some of you may have at home, which are actually hybrid systems, I'll call them. Like only small drop of blood you require, not even drop, small blood you require with a minimal invasive, you can say, process, and you can yourself test with a electronic device. So those things I can say is a hybrid systems. So when the system progresses like that, it goes like that. So hybrid systems have already become popular in a lot of, you can say, electrodiagnostic based, like whether it's a blood pressure measurement or oxygen saturation measurement or this type of sugar measurement. Every year you can say hybrid or electrodiagnostic systems people are using, and you can see the effect. It's less cumbersome. Almost there is no any body can keep this equipment at home and test. And therapeutic also becomes more, you can say, permanent, relatively more permanent compared to the chemical based, because it's actually targeting the cause in the electrical domain, which is more subtle compared to the biochemical domain. And also the research has started to understand the cognition process. Cognition is how all these electrical things start. Like when I'm speaking, from my speech production area in the brain, signals are getting generated, electrical signals, and those signals are traveling to all my speech production muscles, like my tongue movement muscles and my vocal cord controlling muscles. And because of the stimulation into those muscles by those signals, my different contractions are taking place. That's why I am able to move my articulator tongue and able to use my vocal cord opening so that source of the air from the lungs can enter into my vocal tract and the speech is produced. But the original EA is something that actually controls the production of these signals, and that is, we say, the cognition process. A lot of research has started in to understand this cognition process. Not only in India, abroad, all over the world, hundreds of labs, governments have opened to understand the cognition process. We have understood that if you can get hold of that process, then our diagnosis and therapy will be much more permanent or much more effective. And with that, we don't know when the breakthrough will come, but a lot of research is going on in this direction. And lastly, the bliss state. And this is what is my model, you can say, about how the diagnostic and therapeutic has progressed or progressing. So when you are looking from your research point of view, you can think of which part you are participating. And accordingly, whether it's instrumentation, diagnostic, therapeutic, you can. So the field is very vast because human body means very little we know till now. So there are a lot of research is going on and has gone into it. Last, I can say, more than 100 years, and especially with computer technology, other technology coming up, a lot of research is going on. But still, we know a small thing about this whole how the body functions. It's an excellent machine, actually. How it functions, we know very small things. So now coming to how artificial intelligence is being used. Now, artificial intelligence in 1950s, it was started. People who started it, they had the idea that they can make a machine which can function as a human brain. It can think, it can decide. So like that's the whole idea with which it all started. In case of healthcare, the most effective thing happened in late 60s, 70s in the name of expert system. So expert systems are like we have a rule engine. So we know diagnostic process when the doctors do diagnosis, whatever they have studied. So those rules are framed, and that's why we say rule engine is formed. Like if fever is this much, blood pressure is like this, if this pathological report is like this, if this signal characteristic is like this. So like the rules are formed, then this is the disease. So these are the rule engines. And for making the rule engine, we use a knowledge base, and the knowledge can come from expert. And while evaluating from the user point of view, user interface, he will not have to know the rules. So once the machine is made from this side, then the user simply gives the input, and based on the rule engine, you have the output. So this was popular in late 60s, 70s. It became popular up to almost late 80s. People were designing various expert systems, and people are expecting that type of AI will help the healthcare sector. So the user interface is an interface that helps a non-expert user to communicate with the expert system to find a solution. So this is how the work was going on. So this is just another view. So human expert, knowledge engineer, knowledge base, interface engine. interface, then the user may not be an expert. We just use this system. That is what was targeted. Started in late 60s, 70s, very popular in 80s. And so it's basically, you can say, a deterministic inference engine, we can say. The conclusions drawn from this type of inference engine are assumed to be true. It is based on facts and rules. Now we know that these facts, the actual diagnosis system is not based on facts and rules. When the doctors do diagnosis, they sort of don't completely depend. Like for particular patient, a particular fever condition or another pathological report, another thing, they may be deciding for one disease. For another person, it may be a different type of disease, and that is where actually the probabilistic approach comes into picture. Though the general rules are same, but various other things which may not be, like when the doctor talks to the patient, he himself gets a lot of information, like the history, family history, and his history in terms of the his health history, and based on those and those whatever the pathological reports and other things, they decide. That is where the probabilistic inference engine slowly became popular, and that is what started happening towards late 80s. So this type of inference engine contains uncertainty in conclusion and based on probability. So this, obviously you can guess that very rigid rules and facts may not be a very good idea for designing an expert system. That's why probability based rules or probability based inference engine people start designed. And that's how in up to late 80s, I can say. Then various types of expert system. One is the dental. Of course, it was not for healthcare. Mycin was very popular for in the healthcare. These are the languages people used for developing the expert systems, and Backstage. So these are a few things just I have taken from the internet. Dental was the first system, expert system. It was basically for chemical analysis. It was designed. The idea was taken, and for the healthcare, they developed Mycin and Backstage and Cardet, various systems with time people developed. So, like in the late 80s and early 90s, this was something more than $100 billion industry, the expert system. But suddenly people lose interest in expert system. The response of the expert system may get wrong if the knowledge base contains wrong information. Why they lost interest? The other reason. Like a human being, it cannot produce a creative output for different scenarios. Its maintenance and development costs are very high, and knowledge for designing is much difficult. Now, this was the main bottleneck. For each domain, we require a specific expert system, which is one of the big limitations. For each domain means, like suppose if I'm looking for a cancer patient, it has to be a different expert system. Or if I'm going for another type of gynecological situation, then it has to be different. So you can think of developing separate expert systems is a very costly thing because it requires domain knowledge or expert knowledge, and that is where actually that is the main bottleneck, and there are other bottlenecks. So people started losing interest by 90s, and it cannot learn from itself, hence requires manual updates. So then this probabilistic based expert system of course started by 80s, but it was mainly influenced by whatever the models people used were influenced by the probabilistic models of speech recognition, statistical machine learning in 80s, and large-scale neural nets in 80s and 90s. So mostly people started using them, and this was actually directly people did not use in healthcare. In general, as artificial intelligence was getting revolutionized from the inputs from these areas like probabilistic models of speech recognition, statistical machine translation systems, large-scale neural nets. So this was happening in different areas, and so the different areas which has contributed to modern day AI are something like speech signal analysis is the, you can say, the parent of all signal processing. like speech analysis, synthesis, recognition. Then ECG signal processing has a lot of contribution to signal processing, like whole adaptive signal processing is born out of ECG signal processing, especially Woodrow had designed this adaptive signal processing in early 70s for separating maternal ECG from the fetal ECG. And that's how the one complete branch of signal processing took off, and later on the ideas though are not used as adaptive signal processing, various learning techniques and all the same ideas are used which are used for adaptive signal processing. Then of course statistical signal processing, this natural language processing NLP or computational linguistic has played a very big role in AI. Because whenever we want to communicate with the machine, when we are talking about AI means the machine has to decide for us. So, but when we are going to communicate, human to machine communication, then either the communicator has to be with the speech, where the front end speech recognition tools has to be there, or through text. In both cases, the language-based information is important. If we can't model it, then isolated words and all, they don't require, they are not language dependent. But when you're continuously speaking to the machine, then the language dependent information is important. That's why present day systems like Alexa, which the popularity, whatever way you speak, it picks up because language models are there. That's what I'm saying. Natural language processing or computational linguistics has played a very big role in the development of present day AI. And of course, then the machine learning, which are basically, when you're talking about machine learning, these are actually statistical based tools, recognition tools. Now, why statistical based recognition tools became popular? Now, whole thing, these have become popular because for any system, precisely we don't know the causal effect, you can say. And like suppose weather prediction, for example, like today's Gauhati weather is sunny weather is there. Now, then how we can predict tomorrow's weather? Because we don't know precisely all the causes. Of course, for any event that is happening, there is precise causes are there. In the nature, nothing happens in a random manner. But from the human, you can say our knowledge point of view, we don't know all the parameters. But then as engineers, we'll have to predict. So then how we do it? When we don't know, then we try to make use of statistics. We sort of like look at last 50 years data and what was the weather condition on 29th September in Gauhati. We look at those data, and from those data in an average sense, average in a general way I'm saying, not just the mean, we try to predict the weather, and that is where statistics and the data plays a role. The more data we have, the statistical means that we are going to use or the models that we are going to use becomes more and more, you can say, or more and more closer to the realistic situation. So the statistical tools or the methods that we use, always I tell my students, these tools are actually to cover our ignorance. We don't know precisely the causes. That is why we use these tools, and that is what is the limitation as well as the advantage. Limitation is that if you blindly use the statistical tools, then you will not get a satisfied result. Now, advantage is our ignorance is there, so that's why we can use them. And in a lot of applications, we have found it is effective. And nowadays, unlike before 30 years, the way the cyclone and other things were predicted, the rain condition or weather condition, at least present day, the predictions are much better, because we know there is a lot of jobs around the weather prediction things before 30 years when we were used to be students of 40 years. Now at least the predictions are coming. Why that is happening? Because into the statistical model, the more and more knowledge that we have acquired for the domain, that we are incorporating into the statistical models, and that is why the statistical models started behaving in a better way. And that is the whole idea of using the statistical model for various types of prediction, decision making and all. So the domain knowledge Domain knowledge means all these causal effects, cause and effects that we need to know. So there is a science domain also, we say. So we need to investigate more and more in that domain. And those information, so even if we cannot come out with the complete reason or the knowledge of the domain, but whatever we get in the domain, that we can incorporate in some way into our statistical models. So the statistical models can work better. So statistical models means lot of data we require. And recent days, machine learning tools, recent day popularity already, all of you know, the deep learning, which even if are claimed that they don't require the domain knowledge. That of course I will discuss how the contradiction has happened and what industry has planned. So modern day, because of the computational facilities, increasing computational complexities of or computational efficiency of the machines, people started using deep learning methods, which are nothing but in 80s already these works were done about the neural network. Only thing is that that time our computational efficiency was very low, and nowadays because increase of people are using that knowledge now and are getting better and better predictions and recognitions. So this is about general signal processing and machine learning. The same thing, whatever I discussed, I have put it here. So health sector is being transformed by the ability to record massive amounts of information about individual patients. The enormous volumes of data is impossible for human beings to analyze. So these are the reasons that, as I told you, the ignorance and busy clinical environments such as acute emergency setting, quantitative analysis may not be practical because of additional time required for manual tracing. Visual estimation remains a mainstay in many areas of clinical practice, which requires considerable experience in cardiology. Application of machine learning to either highlight the need for quantification or provide fully automated measures rapidly to the clinician who therefore work on this issue. So these are the certain salient points that I have put here. So the data is critical. So because they are all based on statistical tools, so you can guess the data is critical. So there's some claims like many major advances in machine learning actually occur from data sets, not algorithms. What it means? When IBM's Deep Blue defeated chess grandmaster Gary Kasparov, that is in 1997, the algorithm was 14-year-old. So you know that it's obvious because when I'm looking at statistical based tools, then the more information you can capture if you have more data. That's what is being claimed. Okay, similarly, Google learned to translate Chinese to English using 17-year-old algorithm and data they collected 2015. So the more data they used, the algorithm or the ideas of taking decisions or the statistical models are actually old models. That is what is being claimed to give emphasis when the modern day machine learning or deep learning tools are data dependent because we are looking at or we are targeting the statistical information in it. So the more data, the better will be the better will be the quantification of statistical information in it. Okay, there are two things required for successful application of machine learning: intelligent algorithms and rich data sets. So the automated diagnostic system is basically, when we are working on it, has three blocks. One is the pre-processing. Any signal, suppose you are giving as input, then there will be pre-processing block where you denoise or normalize the signals. There is a feature extraction block, the features which are of importance that we collect and we give input to the machine learning tools, and we make the diagnostic decision. So pre-processing is a very general, so I have dropped it. So there are basically two blocks, one the feature extraction block and the machine learning block. Now the significance of machine learning block already I discussed. That is basically we are using statistical models in machine learning, and that's why the data is required. the significance of picture extraction block, we can think of like this. I have a picture. This is a video of our campus. Just I'll show you, and then I'll discuss the significance of picture. This is our tennis court and the road, and this is a lake actually. This is our auditorium, and we have a very beautiful campus. Just I stopped it here. Now look at just one frame. So what are the information present here? So road, flowering trees, so that auditorium, this is the administration building behind it, and various other different types of trees. So in this image, suppose I am interested, suppose in the vehicle, I'm not interested in other things, because when you do processing, that we are interested in some, you can say, information. Now, the information related to vehicle I am interested. So, if this I am interested in, then I have to extract, I say, the features or the characteristics related to this vehicle. And that if I give input to my machine learning tool, then it will work better. Directly, if I give it to the machine learning tool, then it may confuse with so many different types of information present. That is where the features are important. And so we go for various feature extra. This is just another example of a film poster. There are text information are there. This is a heroine's photograph, hero photograph. There is a gun here, the background here. Now, which information you are interested in? Like you are going to recognize, suppose, the text. Then you'll have to segment it, separate it, or the features related to the text present you'll have to extract. Then the machine learning tool will work better. So this is the significance of feature extraction. And the industry actually spends a lot of money on this feature extraction block. Now, imagine suppose for speech processing. Speech processing, when you are using, then you require a speech specialist for this feature extraction block. Machine learning block is a very general block. Statistical tools are there. Once they are developed, that is there various machine learning, you might have heard the algorithms nowadays, whatever people use, like starting from simple regression based model to cluster based models to then statistical models like Markov model, Markov model, and SBM, and so many other things. So once you have the model, that is there. But for the feature, which domain or for which type of information, there you require a specialist always. Like speech processing, then you require a speech specialist. In suppose healthcare, biomedical signal, specifically ECG signal, and you require a person with an experience in ECG. Otherwise, he cannot handle the features. So that is where the feature extraction block is important, and that's where the industry spends very huge amount of money in terms of you can say hiring the specialists. Then what happened recently, because of the computational, I don't have here, because of the computational advantage, industry thought of dropping this feature extraction block. That is the whole hype around the deep learning things. So directly people thought, why give this feature extraction? If you can build a computationally, because the computational efficiency is there nowadays, machines are highly computationally efficient. So directly we can build neural network based models. So that's a deep learning, very huge number of hidden layers, where we don't require the feature extraction block. We can give directly the samples of the signal or pixels of the image as inputs, and we can train the machine, and we can get the desirable results. That is the whole idea, or the whole emphasis or whole excitation around deep learning. So initial days, like in the multimedia images and multimedia signals, there was success. Very good success people got with that. But specific to healthcare, like as I was telling you, speech, the success is not very high. Again, the feature block is coming back. So that is where the scenario is there. So next, so this is a general thing about AI as I talked. Next, I will discuss about specifically the cardiac signals. So, do you have any query at this point? You can ask me. I also require a few minutes break. If you ask me, that will be sort of like a rest for me. About the AI, how things and where the things have moved and where the things stand today's world. Yes, somebody was asking me about features at the beginning. Yes, any query? Are you able to hear me or not?
Yes, sir, we can hear.
Okay, so
No query, sir.
anybody else about the general AI system? There are a lot of hype around this AI systems. So where we stand?
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello. Yes, good morning, sir. Sir, I have query like, see, my PhD is in agriculture and AI in agriculture. So can you please give me some insight how I can use feature extraction feature in agriculture if I am taking a photo of agriculture farm, and how I can extract the features from it? Can you please elaborate on this point?
I'm sorry, I'm not. But what exactly you are asking from the images? Agriculture
Yes.
images you are using?
Yes, if I am taking a photograph of a farm from either a satellite imagery or either the drone, okay, so then I'm collecting lots of images, okay, and then how I can extract the features.
No, satellite imagery already there is a lot of work people have done on such agriculture. I am not I am not just, I have heard, but I have not gone through them. So exactly, I cannot suggest anything, but you can see those area and the features, the type of features they use also, I don't know. But this likely, if I will say that normal image, if I will compare it, normal image always you can find out what is your target. Like suppose you want to identify the crops, and the crops, then related to those crops characteristic, you can extract, you can segment them out, and you can extract. That is only loosely I can suggest. And that is possible. It's like normal image processing work. Whatever is the image processing, the way they extract the features, they segment the information, same thing can be used if it's a satellite imagery. Only thing there, the situations are different resolution. Best images are there. There the main challenges are, as I have understood, satellite images, the resolution is very important. And they do not appear like the normal images. Images means photographs.
Yes.
Right? So they are like characteristic images, we say. They are not images in an actual sense. They are not photographs. They are the characteristic images. Like,
Correct.
so what is depicted in terms of like some energy values.
Yes.
So they are best on that. You have to look at exactly. I'm not sure exact answer I cannot give you, but a lot of work has gone into it. You can search in the literature and accordingly you can extract the features.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other query? Yes, any other query before entering into ECG? Only thing I was emphasizing the feature, the information that if you are working in a domain, it is not good to blindly use the machine learning tools. That is only my suggestion. It is always your work will be better or more science oriented, which actually will be easier to publish unless the works that you are writing, reports or papers, have some science orientation. Means science orientation means the analysis and other things. then it is difficult to just using as a black box the machine learning tools and showing the results improved by some percentage. It's not easy to push the paper through publication. So if we have the domain knowledge and the domain-based analysis when you are discussing and all, domain-based information you are discussing in your paper, then it's easier. That's what we have seen. So domain knowledge always you require, whatever, even if directly you are using machine learning tools. Yes, any other query? Okay. Jyoti, you are there?
Yes, sir.
Can you make a five-minute break? Then we will start. It's 10:10 in my way. Yes, Jyoti.
Yes, sir, that will be great.
Okay, then let us take a 5-minute break. It's a 2-hour talk. I'm getting tired. I'm sorry. So 5-minute break. It's in my mobile. It is showing 10:10, 10:15. We'll start. And
Yes, sir.
slowly we'll go into the cardiac signals. Yeah?
Right.
Okay. Okay. We'll take a break.
Okay, sir.
Okay, we can start again. So the cardiac signals, we are dealing with three types of cardiac. Here I have listed, of course, two. One is the electrocardiogram signal. That is an electrical signal which is responsible for the contraction of heart muscles. Another is the phonocardiogram signal or the heart sound, which is a sound signal that because of the closure of the valves we hear sound. That is a phonocardiogram signal. Another signal is a seismocardiogram. There is a vibration of heart, you can say. That is what is can be recorded through accelerometer called seismocardiogram signal. And some general information about heart. It is located in the thoracic cavity between the lungs in the mid atrium. So this is the heart. 2/3 of the heart is located on the left side. 1 in 10 million, sometimes heart is located on the right side. Its apex or concept and rest on the diaphragm. Diaphragm, you know, that the fin that separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. And average weight of the heart is 300 grams. So this is general information about heart again. There are 4 chambers. Upper right are the upper right and left atria. Upper 2 chambers are actually in singular we call them atrium, in plural we call them atria, and the lower 2 chambers are the ventricles. Then the blood flow between the upper and the lower chambers are controlled by atrioventricular valves or AV valves that lie between atria and ventricles. Right AV valve is characterized by 3 valve leaflets or cusps called tricuspid valve, and left AV valve is called bicuspid valve. Then we have semilunar valves located at the bases of the 2 ventricles, and for the blood, when it goes to, from the left ventricle, it goes to the aorta or the main artery. From the right ventricle, the blood goes to the pulmonary artery for oxygenation. And there, 2 sets of valves are there again, which are called semilunar valves. These valves typically open slowly, but they close abruptly, and their opening and closing are happening because of the pressure gradient across them. And when they close abruptly, they emit sounds, and those sounds are recorded as phonocardiogram signal or heart sounds. Now these upper 2 valves, the AV valves and the semilunar valves, you can guess, will close at different times. So in the time axis, we can see them appearing at different instants of time. So this is the internal view of the heart. So the left side, so bicuspid valve or mitral valve. The right side, tricuspid valve or tricuspid valve, and they are the atria, these 2, and the ventricles. So any biological muscle, if you give an electrical impulse, that contracts, and the whole contraction of the heart that takes place because of its electrical generation that is located at the sinoatrial node. The sinoatrial node, which is a strip of specialized muscles or tissues are present on the top of the right atrium, and from there rhythmically the impulses are produced. Nature has made those tissue characteristics such that rhythmically they produce electrical signals, or you can say impulses, impulse-like signals. And those signals are transmitted through a specialized path throughout the heart. Like from the sinoatrial node, they come to AV node. So this is the atrioventricular node. From there, they go to bundle of each. And from the bundle of each, they go to the left bundle of each and right bundle of each, reach the apex of the ventricles or the heart. And from there, through Purkinje fibers, they spread to different ventricular muscle. And as wherever these impulses reach the muscle, contract. And with the contraction, the pumping action happens. So this is the conduction system of the heart, we say. The electrical system has started in our heart when we are in the mother's womb, like 5th to 8th week of pregnancy. the heart starts functioning, and it keeps on functioning till our last day on this earth, I can say. So how efficient is the system, whole electrical and the mechanical system here. That is how things are going on. So this electrical, if there is a problem in this generation of this, you can say, the sinoatrial node is also called the pacemaker, natural pacemaker. And if there is a problem of generation of these impulses, that is where people put a pacemaker, which actually is a oscillator circuit, or you can say generate electrical impulses, and which are fed to the electrical conduction system of the heart, and the heart functions as a normal heart. And this is just another view. And this diagram shows the delays for the impulses to reach different parts of the heart. So the sinoatrial node is the starting point. Yes, somebody has any query? Okay, the sinoatrial node, that's why it's marked 00. It requires 0.03 second. It is at the AV node. So it requires a delay of 30 millisecond to reach the AV node. But it's interesting, from the AV node to pass it to the bundle of his, it requires 130 millisecond delay. Nature has very nicely made some systems here, so the signal gets delayed here. So, and this delay is very much essential, because in that time the impulses spread across the arterial muscle, and that helps the contraction of the arterial muscle before it passes onto the ventricles. The nature of the muscles is that once it receives the electrical impulse, it will undergo contraction. That's why there is a delay of 130 millisecond, and then here it requires another 10 millisecond time. It can reach the apex of the heart. From there, it spreads to the different parts of the ventricle through Purkinje fibers. So this is, you know, that when heart beats at 72 beats per minute, the period is something like 800 milliseconds, right? Less than 1 second, 800 millisecond. Out of 800 millisecond, 400 millisecond is the main event, electrical event that takes place. Like the impulses spreading through the arteria, and then the impulses passing onto the ventricles and getting spread through the ventricular muscle. This whole activity, electrical activity, that happens within 400 milliseconds. And another 400 millisecond is electrically silent, you can say, region. That we'll see slowly. So this is what exactly is another figure from sinoatrial node. It comes to arterioventricular AV node, from AV node to bundle of His, and then through the left bundle of His and right bundle of His, it reaches apex and then spreads to different parts. Einthoven standardized it in 1903. He got Nobel Prize for it in 1924. So the signal was known earlier also. Einthoven only standardized it, means how it has to be recorded. So he sort of came up with this 12-lead recording system. So this video, I'll show you again whatever I'm discussing about ECG. I just downloaded it from internet. You can see this video.
An electrocardiogram, or ECG, is a quick, painless test to see the activity of the heart. It is used to determine if your heart has abnormal rhythms, if it is getting enough blood, or if areas of your heart are abnormally thick. The ECG records the electrical activity of the heart. The pattern of electrical activity that can be seen on an ECG is called a sinus rhythm. A normal heartbeat produces regular, identifiable patterns that are called the P wave, the QRS complex, and the T wave. These segments show the electrical activity of specific parts of the heart. The SA node is known as the pacemaker of the heart and begins the normal heartbeat by producing an electrical signal. This signal spreads through the atria, or upper chambers of the heart, causing them to contract. Electrical activity in the atria is seen as the P wave. The signal then reaches the AV node, which produces an electrical signal which continues through the bundle of His, the bundle branches, and Purkinje fibers. This causes the ventricles, the lower chambers of the heart, to contract. Electrical activity in the ventricles is seen as QRS and the T wave. The heart refills with blood, and the cycle begins again with the SA node.
So this is how the ECG signal. So if you look at the ECG signal, this is an electrical signal basically in the body. So that's why we say bioelectric origin, and that causes the contraction of the cardiac muscles. Typical frequency range of this signal is 0.5 Hz to 60 Hz. And the three main waves that we see is the P wave, which appears or which is responsible for the depolarization of the arterial muscles upper two chambers, and that causes the contraction of the arterial muscle. The QRS complex that is responsible for the contraction of the ventricular muscles. This wave has a much large amplitude compared to P wave because the ventricular muscle is much bigger compared to the arterial muscle. The T wave appears during the relaxation or depolarization of the ventricular muscle. So that's what I was saying. 400 millisecond half cycle, that's almost is electrically silent, which is genuine ECG signal. Typical parameters which are of diagnostic importance are the interval parameters. PR interval, QT interval, P wave, T wave amplitude, QRS complex amplitude. So these are the typical features which cardiologists use for diagnosis, and also the wave shapes. And this is the phonocardiogram signal, heart sound signal. I just make you hear it. So you may be hearing loop, 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 loop type of sound. In each cycle, there are two, you can say, sounds coming. The two sounds corresponds to, the first sound corresponds to the closure of the AV valves. The second sound corresponds to the closure of the semilunar valves. So when the AV valve close, you get a signature or a signal, which we call S1 sound. There is the onset of ventricular contraction. Because of that, because of reverse pressure, the AV valves close, and a sound is produced that we technically say is S1 sound. The S2 sound is the closure of the semilunar valves, the valves which are between the ventricles and the aorta and the pulmonary artery. These are the semilunar valves. When they close, this S2 sound is produced. There are some other types of sounds also sometimes are, like S3 sound, ventricular gallop, S4 arterial gallop, other snap ejection sounds. Normally, in case of children, these other types of sounds are not of pathological origin always, but in case of adult, these other sounds are always of pathological origin. Now, when you go for diagnosis of cardiac abnormalities, broadly there are three types of abnormalities. One is the myocardial origin, electrical conduction origin, or valvular origin. Three problems can happen. Myocardial origin means if the heart muscles, you can say, degrades due to various things like old age or any pathological condition. The heart muscle degrade, then we say it's of myocardial origin. If the conduction system, that's what we discussed, if the conduction system has some problem, there is some because of high, you can say nowadays, cholesterol, or other pathological condition, or you can say old age, the conduction path sometimes get affected. And that's why if the conduction is not proper, the conduction path is not working properly, then the signal cannot reach and the different muscles properly, and that's why we say it's a conduction problem. Third is a valvular problem. If there is a problem with the valves opening or closing, that's why it's a valvular problem. So the three, you can say the origins for any cardiac abnormality can be myocardial origin, can be of electrical conduction origin, or can be of valvular origin. And the signatures we can get most of the time on ECG signal. Or if valvular origin, then we can get it from the phonocardiogram signal. What Einthoven had standardized is the 12-lead ECG. We can record the ECG There's 3 limb leads: lead 1, lead 2, lead 3. Lead 1 is a like differential mode recording between left hand and right hand. Lead 2 is between left leg and right hand, and lead 3 is between left leg and the left arm. Right leg is always used as a, you can say, common points, common earth points between the instrument and the human body. Then we have augmented limb leads. They are nothing but the 3 limbs that you are using: left arm, right arm, and the left leg. Now they are recording with respect to a common point, that is a augmented limb lead. So ABR is augmented right hand, augmented left hand, and augmented foot, means the left foot. Then there are 6 standardized positions on the chest from which the 6 chest leads are recorded. This 12 lead ECG is recorded because cardiologists want to visualize the heart, the electrical activity of the heart from different angles. Like one is the transverse plane, another sagittal plane, and you can say another is the vertical plane, the coronal plane. And that is why when you record the 12 lead ECG, it's sort of like the electrical activity we are actually recording from a 3-dimensional view. And typically when you record 12 lead ECG, you can see it will look like this. So all timing information from one lead to another lead, they are all same in all the leads. That is obviously you can expect. But the wave shapes are different. As you are recording from different angles, the wave shapes, depending on the muscle structure, heart muscle, how the electrical activity is going on from that angle, that is what is recorded. That's why wave shapes are different. And this itself gives us idea about the one thing is that compression. Because there are a lot of repetition from cycle to cycle. So we say this interbit redundancy is there. There are a lot of, you can say, similarity from one channel recording across all 12 channel recording, and that we say is the interlead redundancy. And if you try to find out correlation in one cycle itself, that is a very good amount of correlation is there, that we say intra-bit redundancy. And these redundancies people have exploited to record or to do compression of ECG. Compression of ECG is very much required. As I told you, almost every second one cycle is appearing, and there are 12 bits needs to be recorded, and 24 hours recording is required. Like in ICU, continuously the recording. That's why it's a huge amount of data. That's why compression is a very important, you can say very important in case of ECG signal. And what we have seen, if you go to a filter bank type of approach, then you can get more redundancies. You can explore more redundancies which help better the compression. Okay. Now this is just one pathological condition, which is a very important pathological condition which can lead to heart attack. It's called myocardial infarction. Myocardial infarction is nothing but the blockage of a coronary artery. If the blockage of the coronary artery happens, the blood flow. Coronary artery is the artery which supplies blood to the heart muscles. So if there is a blockage in that coronary artery, then the blood supply will not happen efficiently. And if the blood supply is not happening efficiently to the heart muscles, then those portions of the heart muscle will not get the oxygen and other nutrients which blood's main job to supply. They won't get it, and that's why the heart muscles starts degrading. You'll get the signature of this myocardial infarction like this T wave peaking followed by T wave inversion, then ST segment elevation or appearance of new Q wave. So they are the signature for myocardial infarction. And a different type of myocardial, anterior means the front side. They appear in lead B1 to B6. Lateral MI appear in lead 1 or augmented limb lead left hand B5 or B6. Similarly, inferior MI can appear in lead 2, lead 3 or ABF, and posterior MI, you can see the signature as ST segment depressed in B1 to B3. This is why actually purely recording, because different pathological conditions appear in different leads. Okay, with this very basic introduction to ECG, so how we are using as for AI. So the traditional methods, we have the ECG signal, then the features we extract, then we put into the machine learning models, then we get the results. So we have worked on this detection of myocardial infarction. So various things are there. I'll not go deep into it. So various classifiers for a database, as we try to evaluate, we get such results for myocardial infarction. But you can see there the different machine learning tools like SBM, Canyon, decision tree, logistic regression. Then when we started using CNN, like this, we can take it as a deep learning or neural network based classifier, then you can see the improvement in terms of result, 99.9% related to other types of machine learning tools. Of course, in ECG, we are always using through features. Feature selection block is there. So this actually encourages us. The deep learning, as it is being claimed by everybody, gives the best result, and we also started working on this. But since such work, as already I was discussing, there are limitation of such type of works. Even the ML works shows good results on small data sets. These methods have the following limitations. Firstly, feature extraction depends on medical expertise, and quantification of progressive MI features using fixed handcrafted features is difficult. With the disease progression, we cannot very well predict using such features. Now, so poor generation results due to variations of ECG signals over time. So the feature extraction block, the machine learning, and this is what we are doing it. And this is what we are doing it. Now, what is being proposed, or industry was excited, I was telling you, the feature extraction block, we can drop it. We have so much of computational efficiency in our hand now. So directly signal samples will give input, and if you can train such a machine, then we will get correct diagnostic decision. This is the whole idea or projection, and the industry is very much excited, because if it is successful, then they can do away with this feature extraction block. Now, if they can do away with this feature extraction, a lot of selling, industry can save a lot of money, and that is the whole idea. Okay, we also experimented with it. We have got some results. Then I'll come to limitations. Now, clinically relevant problem. We propose a multi-class classification problem for an automated MI severity stages early, and employing RNNs. Anyhow, this is for the attention. We have done it. I am not going to it. I'll start away, come to challenges of DL methods for ECG analysis. Now, this deep learning based methods, they perform well only if you have large amount of annotated data for training. Like speech signal and recording may be cheaper or is cheaper, but getting patient data, large amount, which is required to train the machine, like deep learning methods require more data for training. That's what is being observed, and that's a difficult situation. Cannot handle class imbalance problem, which is common in cardiac disease classification. Large amount of healthy control subjects data is available than disease patients. So that's why the class imbalance problem. And then the model transparency problem. Research in this direction is recently started to improve medical experts' trust on DL frameworks to deploy in practical diagnostic systems. Challenge is to design a DL-based network that has transparency to understand. So basically, in healthcare sector, when we use any technology, there is a transparency. Transparency means how the system is working. Otherwise, it is not acceptable. When the commonly used DL-based methods are like, loosely speaking, I can say are like black boxes, where you give the input and get the output. Train the machine, give the input and the output. Such systems are difficult to get the trust of the medical fraternity. A high computational power GPUs are required to train DNN models. So these are some challenges and limitations. And go to the real situation. Now, the real situation in AI, what we are facing, like from the signal point of view, when you train a system, then we have the signal in our hand and we train the system and we get the diagnostic results. Now, but in a practical scenario, as I was discussing at the beginning, the doctors or the cardiologists, they don't diagnose or don't take the final call only on the signals. They look at various other types of information, like the image information, like cardiac images. They also simultaneously look at the patient history, which is a textual data, and other types of pathological reports. So together they take the decision. And this is where the modern day AI faces the challenge from the point of view of healthcare. How to incorporate these different types of data, or how to build a model for giving input for these different types of data. And not this data, one is the signal, another is the text type of information, another image type of information. So sort of I can say that the information that doctors use is like a multimodal information. But in case of machines, training machines, always, most of the time we do unimodal. Of course, multimodal already people have started working in multimedia and other areas. But in healthcare, some you can say preliminary proposals are there. How to use the multimedia, this multimodal information. And that is what is the challenge for the modern day AI in healthcare sector. And so that is what is being captured here. So when the doctors do diagnosis, they consist of clinical evaluation like ECG, history, lab test, then assessment of ischemia. On the other side, any other disease like pulmonary disease, chest X-ray, they repair suspected heart failure, all are sort of like correlated things. And based on that, so how to develop the system which is based on this multimodal information, that is the current challenge in AI. Okay, so here almost I have come to the end. I did not discuss, so wherever you will ask me, there I will discuss. Okay, I am coming to the end, and this just to show you. One of my student like Salman, who is going to now do your hands-on session. He's a very good photographer. He has recorded it, and I'll show you a panoramic view of IIT Gauhati campus behind the Brahmaputra river. This is our academic complex. This is the auditorium. These are the hostels. You can see this video. There is a Umanand temple here in Highland. It's a very beautiful place. This is our guest house. This is also another guest house. The main lake. Okay, thank you. I finished my talk, and now we can discuss. Another 10 minutes, I think, is there. Whatever you ask, there I will emphasize. 10 to, I think, 14 minutes are there. So please ask. Any query? Yes. Are you all able to hear me? Yes, anybody having any query, you can ask me.
Participants, please ask your queries.
Sir, good morning, sir. This is Charles Prabhu. Yes,
Yes.
sir. Sir, for a cardiac problem, using pacemaker, the device they are keeping, sir, it is advisable or not, sir? What's the pros and cons of that using pacemaker, sir?
Pacemaker is a very old technique. That is the doctors can only decide. Cardiologists can decide. Like depending on the patient condition, if a pacemaker is required. The only thing, nothing to fear because it's more than 50 years technology now. So it is being used for 50 years. So that's a very sad thing. Only thing is that the doctor can only say. I cannot say. This is what is the problem. Only as a technology point of view, I can say it's a very old technology, nothing to fear. Only the doctors, depending on the patient condition, they decide. That's why we are not doctors.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, a small question away from the topic, not directly related to today's thing, but in view of, since you are from IIT, may I know what are the prospects after doing PG from IIT? If somebody does BTech from some state college or some...
No, I'm not getting exactly your question. What the prospect means? Which prospect you are talking about? Yes, please repeat your thing. My prospect in which sense you are asking me? Actually, I'm not getting it. Hello, you are able to hear me? Yes, am I audible? Jyoti, am I audible? Yes.
Yes, most probably, sir, there is a network issue on that side. That is why.
Okay.
Participants ask questions, ask your queries. Are there any more queries, participants? Please ask.
I can check the chat if somebody has put something.
Chat is also clear. There are no more questions there. Yes, sir. Sir, one question is there: how to validate robustness of cardiac signals in detection of MI or arterial fibrillation?
Your question is not very clear. I mean, how to validate robustness of cardiac signals? So what do you mean robustness? Robustness of the method, if you say, I am getting it. But what do you mean by robustness of cardiac signal? I am not getting it. Who is Dr. David? So when you say robustness of the system, we say that this is, suppose I have developed a system, how the system is robust or not. Robust means any variations in the signal, whether it can tolerate or not. That's what we mean by robustness. But robustness of cardiac signals is what I'm not getting. If you are meaning that the robustness of cardiac signals in detection of MI, arterial fibrillation, it's not very much clear. Yes, cardiac signals are good enough to detect MI and arterial fibrillation, but in a practical situation, the decisions are taken just not based on, you can say, the cardiac signals. Also, the other things also cardiologists look at before deciding the final thing. Yes, any other query?
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Hello, sir. I have a question.
Yes.
I have read papers and I am also working in ECG signal classification. So
Okay.
I have seen that people are classifying ECG using deep learning models or conventional methods, also handcrafted features and many things. And they are achieving state-of-the-art results like almost sensitivity, specificity, and all those metrics are around like 99 or even 100% sometimes.
Yes,
But
yes.
in the literature, it is also mentioned that these are not applicable to the real world as they are not interpretable.
Hmm.
So, and they are not able to support their decisions. So, what kind of like I'm asking this question like from can you provide me a opinion of, say, suppose a reviewer, like what kind of interpretability aspect are they looking for, or like what kind of methods should be developed so that cardiologists or maybe general physicians or any stakeholder might like the model, or they have trust in the model. So any opinions on that?
Okay. So actually there are two things here coming into picture. One is that the research publication or the research acceptability. Research acceptability is the thing in, you can say, in the peer group, like in signal processing, biomedical signal processing group. They know what is the new thing, when there is a novelty or improvement is there or not. So that is one thing, that is about the acceptability in the peers, or you can say acceptability in the community, like the research community. There is nothing to do with whether it is to be used practically or not. Then acceptability in the industry. Acceptability in the industry means it has to be financially, like it has to have a market, or it has to be also have a, you can say, profit. Then only the industry will accept it. Research world accepts anything new. There is no problem. The industry accepts, which is, you can say, the finance is the main thing, the profit is the main thing. That's how the industry accepts it. Then the third thing is the medical community. Medical community really, whether it is practically being used for diagnosis or not. That is what you are asking. Now, for this is the way we do research as technologists, like as you are saying, 99%, 100% achievement and all. These are again from the point of view of technology. Like I can tell you, it is something like this. I have developed a system, and the system now is being trained with some information, right? And when I am going to evaluate it, also the similar type of information I am giving. So the system here is dumb. System is dumb. Even if I am going to suppose recognize lions, but I trained the systems giving lions as input and trained it recognize it as a cat. Are you getting my point? Then also whenever I will give lion as input, it will recognize as cat because system is dumb. System I am training, right? So all these systems that we are working on are based on training of suppose ECG signals. We are training it, a dumb thing, we are training it like this. This is the input, this is the output, this is the input, this is the output. And then we are trying to evaluate it. Now my system is 100%. Then of course the technologist and reviewer or in the community, they can find out whether the system can go up to 100% or not. Even if it goes up, but practically for it to be relevant, you know what is the limitation? The limitation is you have trained it. A lion, you have trained your system to be detected as a cat. So the system will detect it. But practical, that's the last slide as I was showing you. Practically means all this multimodal, whatever being followed, at least those type of things we have to implement, then only you can say practically it will be accepted by the medical community. Of course, that is not purely our job. That also will not have to fear. That always we can discuss. Our job is in the research, in the area I am doing it, I am trying to improve the system in a particular way. We are all working in very small, narrow areas in terms of research. So nothing to fear if the medical community accepts it or not. If my peers are accepting, my papers are getting published as an academician for my student, it's all right. Then as a research, as a fundamental research, am I able to do something new contribution in terms of developing a system, making changes in the systems, or in terms of getting some new ECG information, then this is the pure research. Then if I want to develop a practical system, as I told you, then whatever their belief, accordingly I will build it. That is mostly it goes to. So there are various sets of this research. Am I able to answer your thing, whatever you are asking?
Yes, sir.
So not have to worry. Obviously, it is a dumb thing. That is where actually they try to challenge, and their challenge or their denial is justified because it's a machine we are training it. So whatever we have trained it, it will work like that. If I am showing 100% result, you can show me. I will give you input. It will not work. I know for what type of signals you have trained it, right? If you have trained it for a particular type of information, as I told you, you have trained inputs as lions and you have trained it as output as cat. It will always detect it as a cat. And saying that my system is transforming lions to cat may not be a very justified thing. So same thing, even if it is a 100% result we are getting it, that is with respect to the data we have trained and the way we have trained it. It has no practical relevance, but also it is important. If we have developed a system, there is novelty in our peers, we can publish it, the novelty may be somebody may use it, so like that it goes. So these are all different ways of looking at the things. We will not have to so much worried about the final things always, because the research we are looking at from one angle, either a system development or we are looking at any new information in ECG we are trying to extract, or we are building a system. Various ways we are looking at it. So whatever way we look at it, that is worth doing it. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Any other query?
Sir, one question is there. Which biomarkers are used to detect cardiac related problems?
From which year? The signal already I have told the various types of course you can get it from literature also, from any book also, like the various timing and amplitude and wave-step parameters. That is for the ECG signal point of view. Use them as a and what any other types of biomarker you are saying, or the signal characteristic you will take the biomarker. So those are the things currently being used by the cardiologists for detecting various cardiac abnormalities. The signal characteristics that you can think of, or otherwise various other pathological reports and all, they have different types of parameters.
The participants, any other queries?
So are you working with any neurological models?
Neurology and model means I'm not getting.
No, for
Neural
any
model.
neurological disease, are you developing any models for any neurological disease?
No, basically we are basically that EEG and other area we know it, but we are not working. My research is in the area of cardiovascular signals, retinal image, and pathological speech.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more queries? Okay, I hope there are no further queries. So we can end up the session here. So are there any more queries, participants? Okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you for being a part of our FDP. And also I would like to mention that I am very much fortunate to have sir as my guide. I have done my PhD under sir, and I have did my MTech project also under sir only. So we are very much happy that sir got connected with us and have given us all the ideas about ECG and artificial intelligence in healthcare. And on behalf of our team here and as a whole of Gauhati University, I would like to thank you for being a part. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for patient hearing all the participants, and thank you for coordinator Dr. Jyoti. So I'm leaving. I have a class now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.